Yeah. 3-6, mafia.
Whoa, hey, yeah. Whoa, say what? 3-6 mafia. It's going down. Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you. In the club, in the street.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 2, Episode 17 of No BS. Tonight we have myself, Trevor Williams, and Isaiah. Isaiah, how are you doing on this fine Friday night?
Trevor, it is great to be back with you once again for another episode of No BS. I am doing well here on this Aloha Friday. It was really dark out in the Bay Area today. It was very cloudy. It was very gloomy. It was very rainy. But hey, I still managed to have a positive day because all I did was decorated my house, put the Christmas spirit out around the house, put the ornaments on the tree, put the Santa Claus decorations on the wall, put the snowflake decorations on the wall as well, and put the poinsettia flowers, those red flowers, right next to my door. Made my house all Christmas looking very good. So I'm doing great, man. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Ooh, I hear the echo from your screen. Okay, there we go. All right, but yeah, I'm doing fine, enjoying the Christmas spirit. I think like 2 days ago it snowed and the snow melted away, so like now it's back to some green grass. So I didn't have the white Christmas yet, but fingers crossed that Pennsylvania gets that, and I can't wait for more snow on the way. And this holiday spirit, maybe bake some Christmas cookies as the time gets closer on Christmas Eve. Those are always fun. Got to make sure I get that on the grocery list. But enjoying the holidays, and it's nice when my semester's over so I can kick back and relax, do other fun projects, and spend more time on the MI6 network.
Glad to have you back on the network, Trevor. It's been a pretty lonely couple of months between me and Callan, putting the entire network on our back. We're glad to have you, Shri, Steven, and Firmin, once you guys are done with finals, back on the network full time on a regular basis.
Yeah, and we have John Alcorn. He comes in with the first message. I think, Isaiah, you're going to take this one kind of personally. The snow melted away like the 49ers playoff chances with Nick Mullins. But, it somehow got, Nick Mullins got you into the fantasy football playoffs. So, we got to see what happens. And if you can beat me, because, I'm kind of salty that your team beat me last time, dropped 70 points on me. So it's more of a personal game than anything else at this point.
Well, first of all, I want to respond to John's comment, like him saying the snow melted away like the Niners playoff chances. First of all, John, the Niners playoff chances aren't over just yet. Yes, I might have went on the show on Monday and been like, yeah, the season's over, wave the white flag and stuff like that. But hey, after our interview with Grant Cohn yesterday, I am more optimistic than ever that the Niners can make the playoffs. I mean, they just need to beat the Washington football team. They just need to beat the Dallas Cowboys. They need Minnesota to lose to both the Saints and the Buccaneers, which is very, very likely because those two teams are better than the Minnesota Vikings. Arizona plays the Giants. They can still lose to the Giants. Look what the Giants did to Seattle last week in Seattle. The 49ers can still make the playoffs, and I am still 100% on that bandwagon that the 49ers are going to the postseason with Nick Mullins.
No, Isaiah, you got to keep that same energy once they fall out of the playoff picture now.
Well, Trevor, this is where you come in. If the Niners get eliminated from the playoffs, you're going to have to fill in for me on various shows as I'm hiding in my bunker.
Hold up. You said you're leaving the shows when your team's not making it. You're forced to come on these shows now.
I will be taking my holiday break at that point.
Whoa, your holiday break doesn't start just yet. We got a couple days until Christmas. So, Yeah, we got a couple more shows until then now, Isaiah. But as we are doing other things on the MI6 Sports Network, we still have our holiday hot takes that we have. So let me pull up, the most recent ones. So, as you can see on the screen, the hot takes were by Firmin, which was Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence are going to be NFL busts, versus Jonathan Mathis's dance about lemon peppers. And I think you could see that one, I believe, in the Halloween Spooktacular, I believe, in that trailer. So, those are the ones that do. At later point in time, I believe our producer, Stephen H. Wang, will, set up the poll for us. If he does not, I'll be able to behind the scenes and put that in. But Isaiah, I see you have a question.
Also, I believe that the poll will be on Twitter as well. So if somehow, some way, like there's technical difficulties and we can't get the poll on the show, just go on the MI6 Sports Network Twitter account, go vote on it via Twitter, and we will release the poll either at the end of the show tonight, or we'll do it probably with like a press release on the MI6 Sports Network page, releasing the results of the poll that came in on Twitter.
All right, that sounds like a great plan. But let's start us off on the first topic. Some breaking, I guess it's not really breaking news as most people know about it, but the Clippers have gave Paul George a max contract extension. Isaiah, what is your first initial thoughts on this topic? Isaiah, you're muted, buddy.
Well, my first thoughts on this topic is that I believe that the Clippers just saddled themselves with what might be one of the worst contracts in the NBA. Paul George, he's a good player, but he's not a great player. He is a star, but he's not a superstar. Kawhi Leonard, I believe, after this season is going to leave the Los Angeles Clippers because I don't see the Clippers winning the NBA championship this year or even getting to the NBA finals because I believe that the Lakers will still be the kings of the Western Conference when it's all said and done. So I believe that Kawhi Leonard will leave the Clippers, and I believe at that point the Clippers, their main star will be Paul George, and you can't win a championship when your main star is Paul George, and that's pretty much everyone else on your team. You look at guys like Patrick Beverly. Yes, he's a dog on the defensive side, but the guy can't score the basketball to save his life. Lou Williams, prolific scorer, struggles badly on offense. Zubac, I like Zubac to death. He's a terrific young center, but he's not really that consistent of a player. So if you're left with just Paul George on your team, I honestly could see the Clippers missing the playoffs, like if Kawhi leaves, because Kawhi is the player that holds that team together. And about this contract, I think, I already said that I think it's going to end up being one of the worst contracts in the NBA. Paul George, he's a player that is, a Robin. He's not your Batman in terms of comic terms. But Paul George, for me, is just – he's a good regular season player, but he just chokes in the postseason. And if I'm building a franchise, I want a guy that can produce in the postseason because producing in the postseason is what it's all about. I don't care what you've done in the regular season. I care about what you're going to do for me in the postseason, and Paul George isn't that.
Very good take, Isaiah. I feel the same way in that the Clippers could really use a third person in their team and organization altogether. The only way for you to beat the Lakers right now at this point in time is you need a big man to either shut down Anthony Davis so you can either try to double team LeBron James or just I think in general, it's just another big man that is needed. Guards can't really defend against Anthony Davis or LeBron James at this point in time in the league until guards start to, become bigger and stronger, but we're not going to see it. Most guards are going to stay with the traditional 3-point shot. They're going to drive in when they, have the chance, but most of the time they're going to take the long range shot since a lot of them are, driven that way. But at the same time, they didn't need to go with the max contract position. Like, if you're trying to bring another star player to the Clippers, you can't set the max contract on one of your star players and expect them, to bring other talent. At this point in time, you're going to start capping yourself on your bench, and that's when you're going to start to need when your star players are out. So it's going to be really tough this offseason and beginning into this next coming season on what the Clippers are going to do.
Yeah, Trevor, I agree with you. I think the Clippers, this was a stupid deal, like Christy Wilson pointed out. You should not have given Paul George a max contract. You should have let him play the season out and then let him leave via free agency, because Paul George is a cancer. We talked about like what he does on the court. He doesn't show up in the playoffs. He's a good regular season player, but he doesn't show up in the playoffs. And then in the locker room, he just acts entitled. He acts like a guy that has won like 6 championships. He acts like he's Michael Jordan and supposed to get all this great special treatment when Paul George has won the same amount as championships as me. So how the hell do you deserve all this special treatment when you haven't done anything in your career? And that is what rubs people rubs his teammates the wrong way, and it is what rubs me the wrong way as well, because Paul George, until you win a ring, then you can get the special treatment that you want. But until then, suck it up and to be like the other guys and play and go to practice hard and grind hard and practice like them before you get that special treatment.
Yeah, and John makes a great point as well. And his point is the only way the Clippers can beat the Lakers is for LeBron James to leave the Lakers. Yep, that's a valid point, because you can't beat a towering 2 all-stars, and the king himself can't really be dethroned at this point in time. Though he's aging, but at still time, he's still one of the best players in the world, and he's still putting up great numbers, getting the ball around, great assists, and his stats are looking, maybe not the best, but at the same time, there's still good, solid stats on that team that he has. So I can't wait to see what LeBron James does this upcoming season, and does he make, does a repeat with the Lakers, or he goes somewhere else after this season. But who really knows what LeBron James is going to go up for in the next coming years. But let's move on to our next topic, where we're going to look at the NBA Top 100 and try to go through some of the lists. So we're going to start at the back end, so like the nice 90, and work our way up. So I'll bring up the picture and let Isaiah give his first reactions on, the bottom feeders of this Top 100 list.
Trevor, I don't really have like that much of a gripe with the bottom, from 76 all the way into 100. Seth Curry, 91 is pretty appropriate for him. Buddy Hield, same thing. Yeah, DeMar DeRozan, I think he should be a little bit higher, but I can understand 82. John Wall, 81 makes sense because he hasn't played in the last 2 years. Actually, no way. Let me take that back. I think John Wall should be a little bit down below guys like DeMar DeRozan and Buddy Hield and Seth Curry, simply because the guy hasn't played in 2 years and he relies on his explosiveness. And, I've been saying this on multiple programs of this network. John Wall, I think you're going to see John Wall be a shell of his old self, because as I said earlier, he relies on his explosiveness, and he's not going to get that explosiveness this year or any other part in his career moving forward, because when you tear your Achilles, that saps you of your athleticism, that saps you of your explosiveness. And John Wall, that's going to hurt him big time. So we don't know what kind of player John Wall is going to be this season, because he hasn't played in like so long. So I would honestly put John Wall more towards like the 95 to 100 range than 82. And that's not trying to disrespect John Wall. It's that we don't know what to expect from him. He could honestly be like a guy that averages 8 to 10 to 15 points a game, simply because he's lost that explosiveness from the Achilles injury.
Very, very good. But I think look, like you said earlier, a lot of this, like the people who sit at the bottom, you can't really, argue too much about because sometimes they're coming off the bench being that 6-man role. So it's really hard to compare them based on the minutes that they get. And if it's either in like garbage time and they make rain threes and have like a great, third quarter, fourth quarter stand, but the league is already too far, like a 20-point deficit at that point or even greater. And they're just there just having a good time and just doing that load management for the star players so they don't get injured or hurt throughout the rest of the season. So it's really hard, like I said earlier, to just talking about these guys and just trying to defend like, oh, they should be moved up into like in the 70 range or stuff like that. You may not get a lot of, action from them. Some of these guys are like the 6th man on the team coming off the bench and, putting up some decent effort, but it's not like you put them in a star position. Can they make a drastic change? Can they, live up to that expectation? And these guys, I don't think they have it just yet. They're an up and coming and they have that potential to become a star, but they're not there yet. That's where I see, at the bottom feeders of the top 100. But let's now move on to the next group. In the nice mid-range tier, the 50s guys. And, I feel like looking at Tyler Hero as an example, I think it was the reason why he's ranked this high is because of his playoff experience and how hot he got with the Miami Heat. That's the reason why he's ranked that high. Most people say, ooh, that is too high. I kind of have to agree with people after one playoff, stretch of being amazing. I think when you look at the top 100 list, you got to be consistent. You can't have that spurt. And then after like the next following year, you tank, you suck. You can't do that. You need to be consistent throughout. And I think he has a lot of growth, but I don't think putting him in 59 is the appropriate spot for him just at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that Blake Griffin should be a little bit higher than Tyler Hero. D'Angelo Russell, are you kidding me, man? D'Angelo Russell lower than Tyler Hero, that's a disgrace. I think Hero should be below those two guys. Like, I like Hero. I think he's a great he's a potentially great basketball player. Wouldn't call him great just now, but because, he did a lot of good stuff in the playoffs. But it was only his first year. I need to see more from him because you've seen a lot of guys that have that one great rookie year and then the league figures them out and then they turn to being a scrub. So I got to see more from Tyler Hero. I would not put him at number 59. There's one guy before we get to the most obvious point in that list. Trevor, if you could have that list back once again. There was the guy that, before we get to the most obvious point, Colin Sexton, I believe, should have been in this list. I think it's a disgrace that he's not in this list. ESPN should be ashamed of themselves. Colin Sexton is a very explosive guard. He's a guy that can get to the basket. He's a guy that can shoot the ball very well. He was having an outstanding second half of the year before the season got shut down. I believe that Colin Sexton, I'm not saying he needs to be in the top 50 or even the top 70, but put him in behind guys like John, put him in ahead of John Wall, put him in ahead of Montrezl Harrell, because I believe he's better than those guys. For you to put John Wall, a guy that hasn't played in 2 years, and we don't know how he's going to come back, over Colin Sexton is just disgraceful. I think Colin Sexton definitely has to be on that list. But let's go to Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball at number 54, over guys like Zach LaVine, over guys like Tyler Hero, over guys like Blake Griffin, over guys like D'Angelo Russell, over guys like Marcus Smart, over guys as well as, I believe, DeMar DeRozan as well. That is a disgrace, okay? I know one time, not long ago, I came on one of our programs and I uttered the infamous words that Lonzo Ball is a top 4 point guard in all of basketball. He's better than Kyrie Irving, blah, 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 blah. I still believe that Lonzo Ball is better than Kyrie Irving because when you look at Kyrie's character issues, I would rather have Lonzo than him in terms of that. And also, Kyrie just gets injured far too much than I like. But Come on, man. Really? Lonzo Ball over Zach LaVine? Let me give you guys some stats right now. Lonzo Ball last year with the Pelicans played 32 minutes, averaged 11.8 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and 7 assists per game. I mean, that's not bad numbers for an average NBA player, but come on, man. Lonzo Ball was a number 2 pick. He needs to do better than what he did last season. Zach LaVine. Let's take a look at Zach LaVine's stats right now, ladies and gentlemen. Zach LaVine last year averaged 25.5 points per game. He shot 45% from the field. Also averaged 4.8 points rebounds per game. My apologies, and 4.2 assists per game. Zach LaVine, right there, is obviously the better player than Lonzo Ball, and it's by a mile. And then you look at D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell was an all-star. Has Lonzo Ball been an all-star yet? Nope. D'Angelo Russell last year with Golden State and with Minnesota, he averaged 23 points per game, shot 43% from the field, 3.7 rebounds per game, 6.2 assists per game. That is way better than Lonzo Ball's numbers. And then, I think you could even argue that I would put Tyler Hero over Lonzo Ball because I think he can shoot the 3 better than Lonzo Ball. He averaged more points better than Lonzo Ball. He can also shoot better from the field than Lonzo Ball. All those 3 guys that I pointed out, for them to be below Lonzo Ball, that's disgraceful for the NBA. And whoever made that or whoever put that list in, they need to be drug tested immediately because that just doesn't make any sense, just judging by stats alone.
I think you make some really good points there. And Alonzo Ball, like you said, I think he is high, but at the same time, he needs to be in the 60s. That's where he fits. He hasn't had that, stellar performance, but John Alcorn, I think, says it's best. He's ranked high because of all the potential that he has on the team that he's on with the Pelicans, all that young star talent, because this team could be, has the potential to grow up and develop and to become an elite playoff team and run the table in the next few years after LeBron James either, moves back to the East. Who's going to stop them in the West, really? Golden State doesn't have Klay Thompson, and when he does come back, he's not going to be really 100% off of his injuries. He may still be fragile, so Golden State won't be a threat. Houston's dismantled at this point in time. The Clippers can't figure out anything, so it's who else better than the Pelicans to actually run this table for at least 3 to 4 seasons? If they can get their act together, then you're going to start seeing Lonzo Ball make his push, through the league and rise through the ranks. So it's going to be really interesting and that ends up happening. But also, I think Kirsty Wilson says Lonzo Ball seems right to her, right at 54. So you have another good take. Isaiah, I see you got something there.
Listen, I'm not saying Lonzo Ball should be completely off this list. I'm just saying that 54 is too high for my liking. I think I agree with Trevor. I think he should be in probably the late 60s to 70s range. I think guys like Hero, guys like Russell, guys like Zach LaVine should be over him because from what you see with your eyes and the stats, they're better right now than Lonzo Ball. And this list is not about your potential. This list is about right now how you are as a basketball player. And I just think that you cannot say that those guys are right now worse than Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, John Alcorn is going to go agree with you. 73 for Lonzo. I could agree with that. I'll go back to his comment with Blake Griffin. 65 is crazy. He hasn't even reached his prime. I kind of want to disagree with him on that. I understand Blake Griffin has all that potential and he hasn't reached his prime, but injuries kind of hindered him reaching his prime, in my opinion. He's on Detroit at this point in time, but when he was on the Clippers in Lob City, he's building up that momentum, and then after injuries, he just lost that touch than what he used to be with the Clippers. But at the same time, I do agree he hasn't reached his potential, but his window is closing and vastly at an alarming rate. So maybe he can bounce back this season, but if he doesn't, I think his prime window is almost really gone. Unless he's with, the right star players, I could be completely wrong, but I just don't think his window of prime opportunity is closing down. Maybe if he got the star players, we could see his prime, but I don't think it's there, and maybe it's past at this point in time. So we just got to wait and see. Let me go now show the next group, the nice mid-tier group, the nice 20s. Isaiah, your thoughts on this? Isaiah, you're muted, buddy.
Wow, I was on mute the entire time. I can't believe I said like a whole piece and I was on mute the entire time. But my thoughts on this is exactly what my guy, Callan McClurg, put out on his comment. Woo! That's my thoughts on it. Because you see number 17 right there. You see number 17. That is, oh my God, that is amazing. I am just so joyful right now for seeing that. Christmas came early. My guy, Devin Booker, who I've been a fan of ever since his days at Kentucky, he has been finally gotten his due respect by ESPN and, you know, every media outlet that covers sports. This guy has been one of the most disrespected players in all of basketball for the last 3-4 years. And, you know, me and my guy John Mathis, we've been up here on the stage, you know, just vocally advocating for Devin Booker to get his due respect. Devin Booker is a top 10 player in basketball. This guy is one of the best offensive players in the game. He can shoot the lights out from three. He can run an offense. He can pass the ball really well. He can get to the hole. He is just a complete offensive player. And now everybody after the bubble, after his performance in the bubble, they have finally started to take notice of Devin Booker. They put him at 17. Trevor, can you put that picture back up? Devin Booker, look at it. Zion Williamson, this might be controversial, but I would put Devin Booker over Zion simply because Zion only has had 1 year to show for. Right now, while Booker has had multiple years of greatness. Paul George, obviously, he's worse than Booker. Jimmy Butler, yeah, he's better than Booker. Tatum, I would say, is better than Booker. So I think Booker's definitely ahead of Zion, ahead of Paul George. I think also I saw on the list that Trae Young, Kemba Walker, and Kyrie Irving and Westbrook, they were all below Devin Booker. And I agree with that because let's break it down. Trae Young, great player with the Hawks. Really, really great player. But, you know, everybody keeps saying, oh, Isaiah, you know, Devin Booker, yeah, he's not – like, why can't he lead his team to the playoffs? Has Trae Young led his team to the playoffs? He's been there for 2 years. And last season, the team regressed. While Devin Booker, the team actually made it into the bubble, unlike Trae Young. Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker, I think, is a third option on a championship winning team. Devin Booker is the number one option on the Phoenix Suns right now. I think, Trevor, I think you can agree with me on this. I think that I would say right now, I think Booker is the number one and Chris Paul is the number two. Would you agree with that?
I can agree to that, but at the same time, I think bringing Chris Paul sort of gives Devin Booker the opportunity to be more of a catch and shooting type of player. So, like, Chris Paul is basically more like the field general. He'll get him the ball, look for the open passes, and that's why I think they really went out and got him. Just have that nice veteran who knows how to move the ball around and let Devin Booker get in a nice rhythm. Because, like, all we've seen him in the playoffs, he got hot. He put like over 30 points a game, like a star player should. And now you giving somebody him so he doesn't have to worry about bringing up the ball. Now you just took a nice, pressure off of him, put Chris Paul in, and boom, now you have a nice, well-rounded set, building up a nice team in the West to be, like a 6 seed in the West, maybe a 7 seed, depending on how the year goes and how things unfold. But at the same time, this team is young with a veteran leader, and it can only get better from here in most cases.
Yeah, I agree with you, Trevor. I think that bringing in Chris Paul will definitely help Devin Booker. I think that Chris Paul could take Devin Booker to a where I believe he currently is, which is top 10 player in the NBA. He's going to allow Devin Booker to, just be able to get into rhythm, be able to be more of a catch and shoot guy, and I think that's going to benefit Devin Booker instead of having to run the offense and have all that energy just running an offense as well as guarding the other team's star guard. But so I think with this, like the 11 to 50 range, I agree with it because I think Booker's place 17 I would say is perfect for him right now. I think we'll see what happens this season. Paul George at 20, yeah. I would honestly put him at number like 24 or 25. Kyrie at I believe Kyrie was at number 23, and Westbrook at number 24. I would agree with those. I would agree with that because Kyrie. I don't think Kyrie, when healthy, is a great basketball player, but that's his problem. Cannot stay healthy, and I don't think he's been healthy for the majority of his career except for 2 NBA seasons. So we'll see how he does this year. Hopefully, he's healthy.
Yeah, my take on the list, I think it's Jimmy Butler, where he sits at 12 and what he did in the, playoffs and just his fear, his presence in general. It's one of those things that what he did, most superstars would have dreamed of doing. And though he went through some, though the East is not as stacked as it once was back in the day, but he took the opportunity to beat Giannis in the Bucks, but Giannis goes down. But he faces the Boston Celtics, take care of business, and then he goes to the NBA Finals to face a stacked Lakers team. But he still has phenomenal numbers, even though they don't, end up winning the series or make it. I think take it to Game 6. But imagine if he was able to force a Game 7 and able to upset that Lakers team. He'll probably be in the top 5 because of that performance. So him ranked at 12 kind of hurts a little bit, but at the same time, it's sort of like that projections, like he has potential to move up. And if he can, has another consistent year, like I said, we could see him slip into like 8 or 9 by the end of the next year. So I like that there. Devin Booker, like you said, Isaiah, his spot could be shifted up a little bit, but at the same time, he just got Chris Paul. So I can, settle with 17 at this point in time. And once we see him and Chris Paul together, I'm definitely bumping him up to like 13 or 12 with that, great ensemble that they're going to end up having for sure. Paul George, he didn't really do it for me in this postseason in this year. Like, didn't really produce a lot of numbers, slacked off here and there. So I was like very disappointed in him, yet he got a max contract. So I'm like saying, if I produce those numbers in like the NBA and I got, maybe like 13 points a game, 2 rebounds and 3 assists, I could get a max contract, it seems, right? But no, that's not the case here. But at the same time, I think he's gonna I think like you said, he's definitely in the high 20s, but I don't think 20 is the spot for him. I'm gonna move. I guess I'm gonna read some comments. Kirsty Wilson says Paul George shouldn't even be on the list in her opinion. It's like that valid point. You can't go wrong with him not being on the list, but at the same time, he is a key. I wouldn't say a key contributor because I'd be backing on my own words, but like he is a player that has potential, but he's sort of like on his way out of the NBA. He's getting old. He had his great time in the Pacers. Don't get me wrong, like the early 2010s, like in those Indiana Pacers, he was phenomenal. But at this point in time in his career, he's just not the same player that he once was. And that's why I kind of want to hinder him just a little bit because of that. But at the same time, he could bounce back next year and be a true dominant force, but only more time will tell for sure. I know going back to the earlier one, going back to Casey King, thank you for tuning in. But he says, Lonzo Ball, 60s or early 70s, can't go wrong with that. Like we said earlier, he's not there yet, but as soon as he, turns that corner, be able to make his shots more efficient, he definitely can start making a rise and a push. But until then, I think he's a 60s, early 70s player, like you said, Casey. Now let's move on to the best of the best, the cream of the crop. Well, the top 10. The top 10 the list that we, can't hate, but at the same time, those that were within the top 10 are placed there for a reason. The one I'm really questioning about is Stephen Curry, since he's coming off an injury. Is 8 really that? I think he needs to be lower because he has a chip on his shoulder to prove something, and you putting him at 8 compared to everybody else, it's really, hard to say. Isaiah?
Oh, well, Trevor, call me. This might be very, 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 very controversial. But hey, on our the motto of MI6 is do not be afraid to speak your mind. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to speak my mind on this, no matter how controversial it may be. But I think Kevin Durant should be out of the top 10. I really do. Because when you look at Kevin Durant, right, what injury is he coming off of, guys? He is coming off of a torn Achilles injury. Kevin Durant is 32 years of age. He's coming off a torn Achilles. Do we think that he's going to be back to the Kevin Durant of old? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. We don't know how Kevin Durant is going to look coming off that major, major injury. Right now, I think, Trevor, he's at 6, right? I believe he's at 6. Yes, I think he's at 6. I wouldn't put him there. I would put guys like Curry, Dame Lillard, and Jokic and Harden ahead of him until I see that Kevin Durant, how he comes back from that Achilles, the torn Achilles tendon, then I can put him in like that 6 or 5 or top 3 spot. But until then, he has to be out of the top 10 because I just don't know how Kevin Durant is going to be coming off that major Achilles injury.
Yeah, I agree right there. But I think Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry, like you said, they don't belong on this list because they're coming off of injury. Though they have great numbers in the past, and I know a lot of people are saying, oh, when they come back, they'll be able to put up the same results. But sometimes that's not always the case when a player returns from injury. Though I would kind of argue, keeping them in the top 15 because they've always had that good, bias factor where you can say they're always a consistent player. You can't leave them out of the conversation. But if we're just looking at, this past year, most of them didn't really play that much. So how you can put a player in that didn't play at all, even in the top 10. So that's where a lot of people are scratching my head and saying, how is he there? But at the same time, his past experience and saying, yeah, he's able to produce, crazy numbers. It was a, finals MVP here and there. But at the same time, he didn't play this year. So him and 6 for KD, he has to really earn that 6 this year. If he doesn't produce any great numbers, he's going to be plummeting for sure. But at the same time, my main concern is Stephen Curry. And a lot of people have been talking about him. Will he be able to, be a key contributor with the Warriors since Klay Thompson's not there? So it's basically like him and Draymond Green. That's really it. Like, there's no much help left on the Warriors at this point in time. So it's going to be really interesting on how the Warriors unfold this season. Though if they get the AC of the playoffs, that'd be a nice touch, but I don't think they're going to get it this year with too many, potential injuries could loom for that team.
Yeah, I agree with you, Trevor. I'm not sure if the Warriors will get that 8th seed. Like you mentioned, they have just too many injuries. Klay Thompson, torn Achilles. He's out for the year. That's why I think they should have drafted LaMelo Ball, because if you draft LaMelo Ball, then you can move Stephen Curry to shooting guard. But that's another story for a different day. But back to the Kevin Durant point, and everybody right now is saying, oh, yeah, Brooklyn's going to be a top 3 team in the East because they have KD, they have Kyrie. Hold off on that, people. We don't know how KD is going to be post the Achilles injury. The torn Achilles is one of the hardest injuries to come back from. And, you're never, ever, ever the same player that you were before. So we don't know how KD will be after this injury. And Kyrie, he is just so injury prone, man. The guy can't stay healthy year in and year out. He's only had like 2 full seasons in his entire NBA career. We will see how they are, this season. Brooklyn for me is just they're kind of a wait and see team for me. So that's why I can't really put them right now as a top 3 team.
Yep, I'm going to read a few other comments here. So Kirsty Wilson agrees with you, Isaiah, that returning, like she mentioned on the Midnight Express, returning from a torn Achilles is a very difficult injury to come from. Yes, any type of leg injury is really hard to come from. Basketball, you're moving with your legs, and if you don't have your legs, you're kind of like a sitting duck in the NBA. And that's the same for football and same with like soccer. Like you got to have your legs in a lot of these sports. If it's bowling, a torn Achilles can't stop you from winning a bowling championship. Never seen it happen yet. So, anything can happen in that sense. But, our poll is set up by a great producer, Stephen Wang. So make sure you go out and vote. So the poll, like it was earlier, Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence will be a bust by Firmin. And then by Jonathan Mathis will be, his dance with Lemon Pepper's Lulu. So make sure you go and vote, and we'll let you know by the end of the program and who won that. Also, make sure you're able to, thank some of our first donors. Fantastic. Thank you for donating. At the same time, guys, make sure you, any holiday gifts or cheers you like to donate to the MI6, we will highly greatly appreciate it. We'll use it to, make better logos, better networks, maybe help us get some merch and send it out to our faithful viewers. So, every donation helps. So think about it during this holiday season. Isaiah, so you have a point.
Yeah, I agree with Trevor. If you guys want to help us get like new equipment, get maintain our StreamYard, get different logos, make different merch, or even like get some guests that we have to pay for them to come on. Nick Mullins, Drew Lock. But yeah, we would really appreciate it if you guys could donate money to help us out. Any amount counts. Don't feel the need to get to have to donate a lot of money. Any amount will really, really help us. By the way, Stephen Wang, check it in. The guy that I beat in our fantasy football league to advance to the fantasy playoff. Thank you, Nick Mullins, for that garbage time touchdown. Really appreciate you. But Stephen, welcome aboard No BS. How are you doing today?
Oh, all right. I was muted. Nothing much to say from my end. I just want to give a big shout out to my guy, Varun Matharia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, for being our first donor. He contributed a whopping $50, guys. Really, any amount is appreciated. We're not asking for anything close to $50, $1 or $2, $5. It all helps the show. It supports us, our content. And, we thank all our loyal viewers for tuning in each and every week. And some of you guys each and every day, like Christia Wilson, James Gonzalez. You guys have been with us since day one. We really want to thank you guys. We really appreciate you guys for getting us past 4,000 Facebook likes, past 2,300 anchor listens. And last thing is I want to give a shout out to my man from the start, Isaiah Leung. You did beat me in fantasy fair and square. I know you cried like a baby. You said you would contest the results if you lost, but a win is a win. It's fair. And I'm looking forward to Trevor Williams kicking your ass.
It's personal matters, Isaiah. Like I said, our series in fantasy is 1-1. So, it all comes down to this weekend in the playoffs bracket. And, hopefully I beat you and win the MI6 title, later down the line. But I need all the points I can get in the next coming weeks for sure.
I just hope that Tyreek Hill learns how to catch passes like he, used to do, but I don't know if he knows how to catch passes now, because after seeing him against the Broncos, yikes, that was a bad performance on him and his part, Patrick Mahomes' part, for overthrowing that wide open touchdown, and Eric Fisher for that hole that cost me a 50-yard touchdown reception from Tyreek Hill. So 3 surefire touchdowns taken away.
Yep, and Russell Wilson needs to be a better quarterback in these coming weeks because he's been struggling in fantasy, and I've definitely felt it this week. So, Russell Wilson, please make my day and actually drop 20 points again, or 25 points, so I can actually beat Isaiah in a clean fashion, so my weekend can be nice and fantastic, so I can move on to the next round of the playoffs and hopefully win my first ever MI6 title in our first ever season. So, hope I can be the victor in that sense, but time will tell. Let's move on to the top 5 people on the top 100 list now. Isaiah, what are your thoughts on the top 5?
Well, I know a lot of guys in the national media have been criticizing criticizing number 2 being Anthony Davis because, they were like, Anthony Davis, he's not an alpha. He's more of a Robin. But I got to disagree with them. I think Anthony Davis being a number 2 is appropriate because Anthony Davis last year looked like the number 2 player in the NBA. I mean, I think he was better than Giannis. He was better than Luka. He was better than Kawhi. The only person that he was not better than was LeBron James. Anthony Davis was the beast. Number 2, I think, is very appropriate for Anthony Davis. Giannis Antetokounmpo is 3 is fine with me because obviously I think that AD is better than Giannis. Luka at 4 over Kawhi. That's very tough because Kawhi, even though he has had his shortcomings from last year's playoffs when the Clippers choked that 3-1 lead, but Kawhi's still a great player. Kawhi can get to the hole. Kawhi's mid-range is so deadly. Kawhi can shoot the 3. Kawhi can handle the ball. Kawhi can pass. Luka can do a lot of the same things, but Kawhi has more experience than Luka. He's been doing it more than Luka Doncic. But Luka has the potential. So that's where you juggle it in terms of this debate. Me personally, I would put Kawhi over Luka simply because Kawhi's done it longer than Luka has. I want to see a little bit more from Luka. He's a great player, but I want to see a little bit more from him before I can put him over Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, Isaiah, I agree that, Anthony Davis needs to, he's been great on the Lakers, but I may be a little bit of against him being number 2. Because Giannis has won his second, I guess, MVP, and you're ranking him 3rd because of what? I understand, he kind of fell flat this year in the playoffs, and this was the year for him to, get, the NBA Finals and face LeBron James and be that team. But at the same time, there's no other weapons for him on the Bucks. So if any team can shut him down, the Bucks are going to fail. That's bottom line. And easy, end of story, nice bow tie, that's a wrap. But as an individual player, he's probably the 2nd best in the world behind LeBron James. Though he puts better numbers up compared to Anthony Davis. Though Anthony Davis is more of a forward, drives into the paint, gets your second chance shot. Giannis is, on the other hand, is he can do literally everything on the court. Shoot 3s, deep 2s, can drive in when he has to. So he's like that complete all-set player. And if you look at everyone else in the top 5, the only other player who can really do that is the king himself, LeBron James. So if you're going to rank him 3, it's kind of more of a disrespect to Giannis than anything else in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, Trevor, but I just think from last season, right? For me, when I'm right, for me, when I'm ranking these players, I am ranking them on what have you done for me recently. I don't care about your accolades. I don't care about how many all-star team games have you made. I don't care about how many championships you've won. It's what have you done for me lately. And LeBron James last year was obviously the best player in the world. He was a beast. Anthony Davis was a beast in the playoff behind LeBron James. I think he had a better season than Giannis Antetokounmpo, especially when we go to the bubble. He was better than Giannis in the bubble. Giannis just came he was a no-show against the Miami Heat. I know he was injured for some part of that series, but still, he didn't show up in that series. The Heat shut him down. So that's why I would put AD at number 2 instead of Giannis.
Yeah, fair point. And Kirstie Wilson says, the top 5 looks all right to her. So, like I said, you can't really argue with the top 5. You can swap people around here or there, but these are the top 5 players for a reason. And yeah, you can't really argue too much about it, but you can argue on where they're ranked and how they're ranked, achieved. And if you don't want to look at what they achieved, look at their stats. You can look at that, but at the same time, these are the top 5 players for a reason. Well, now let's move on to the glorious segment of the college football world. And we're all looking into the heat of the playoff picture. But the question is, Isaiah, does an undefeated USC team get into the college football playoffs? I'll give a scenario. Let's say Notre Dame is able to beat Clemson in the ACC championship game. Who fills in that 4th spot? Does an undefeated USC get in? Or do they put a 1-loss A&M in?
This is a very tough conversation because there's a part of me that doesn't want USC in the playoffs, because if that happens, that guarantees that Clay Helton is not only going to be back next season, but he'll be back for the year after next season as well, and maybe after the year, after next season. So I got to say, I think you have to put them in if that happens, because, and hear me out, for right now, they have one of the best quarterbacks in college football in Kedon Slovis. If you guys haven't watched Kedon Slovis play, this guy is electric. This guy is a phenomenal player. He's a beast on the football field. You got to go check him out, because I honestly believe that he's going to be the number 1 pick when he comes out in the 2022 NFL draft. But USC right now, they have one of the best passing attacks in the entire college football. They have great receivers on the outside. You talk about Tyler Vaughns. You talk about Gary Bryant Jr., the freshman. You talk about Brew McCoy. You talk about Drake London. They've got potentially great NFL wide receivers at all their wide receiver spots right now. They have a future NFL quarterback manning the quarterback position. The running back position, Malapaya looks like a star in the making. He's an absolute stud. He can run run between the tackles. He can power, or he can run power football. He just does it all. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He's a great football player. The offensive line has gotten better as of late. They weren't that good against Arizona State. They were getting bullied up front, but they've gotten better in the last 2 games. The defense has played much better ever since that debacle against Arizona State. They're winning games handily. So, yes, I got to put them into the playoffs, especially after the situation you laid out, Trevor. If Clemson loses twice, Clemson is going to be out of the playoffs. And USC, I think you have to put them in over A&M, because if they continue to win, they go undefeated, they win the Pac-12, they will not only have a conference championship, but they will be undefeated as well. 2 things that AM is not.
Yeah, Isaiah, I do like USC getting into this playoff picture if Clemson loses a second time. But a lot of people are going to start turning their heads and asking the question, why can't Cincinnati slip in? And both USC and Cincinnati haven't really faced that many ranked opponents. So their resume is sort of the same. I understand the committee may value the Pac-12 more since they are a Power 5 conference and a lot of those schools can beat each other. But at the same time, if you look in the other division where Oregon is, they all have one loss. They're only really playing 6 games. And USC and Colorado are both undefeated. I don't know how you're going to decide who gets into the, Pac-12 championship game if 2 of your top teams have the same record. That's what they have to figure out on their own. But at the same time, that conversation is going to look more and more likely that Cincinnati can get in. But I think the committee is going to look at what's going to be consistent, and they're going to put Cincinnati into a New Year's 6 to see if they can handle with a Power 5 conference team. If they're able to handle that game, you could probably bet next year if Cincinnati is still ranked high and gets into the same position that they're in this year, they have a higher chance of being likely put into a college football playoffs than being put into the unknown. So that goes back to USC and A&M. A&M has that one loss, which is to Alabama, and they got blown out. I shouldn't say blown out. They were down by 24 points by the end of the game. Do you want another 24-point blowout in the first versus fourth pick in the college football playoffs again, like we see in the past 2 years with Oklahoma? Like, come on now. We don't want that. These semifinal playoff games need to be close, need to be thrilling. And the only team that could really possibly do that is USC. Alabama has never faced USC in the college football playoffs at this point in time. So this is a great matchup, great fan bases, and you're going to have a lot of people tuning in if that happens. So if they're going to go with the fans, that's definitely a great scenario to put in. Alabama versus USC, and then 2 and 3s, Notre Dame versus Ohio State. 2 other great fan bases. So this would be a really intense college football playoff picture with some great teams, and it's going to live up to the hype if, USC decides to perform well. But if they get, dismantled in this game, your USC's head coach got to go if they get blown out in that game. Like, that's the end of that. So it's sort of like a pro win/lose scenario for USC. But Isaiah, there's a lot of stake at hand if the game's a close game for sure.
Trevor, I gotta agree with you. If Alabama blows out USC, like if they win by 30, Clay Helton has to go. I mean, my God, the guy, is a mediocre football coach. He's the guy that's holding USC back. I mean, let's just face it. He's the guy that is holding USC back right now. If USC got like a different coach, if they got Jack Del Rio, if they got Jim Harbaugh, if they got Urban Meyer, USC would be a perennial contender in college football. Clay Helton and his coaching staff is what is holding this team back, but they still keep winning in spite of Clay Helton. So, it's a great conversation, but I just think, first of all, about Cincinnati, I don't think Cincinnati will make it because if you look at the recent rankings, the committee has sent a loud and clear message to the rest of the world that the non-Power 5 team is never going to get into the college football playoff. That is not going to happen. I mean, BYU was ranked really low when they were undefeated. UCF, a couple of years back, we had this whole hurrah where like UCF went undefeated and stuff like that, and everybody was clamoring for them to get into the college football playoff, and the committee kept them not even in the top 10. I don't think they were even in the top 10. They were in the top 5 or in the 15 to 20 range for the majority of their time undefeated. So the non-Power 5 sadly will never get into the college football playoff unless they expand the playoffs. And I just think, you have to put USC in because they're undefeated. They've got a conference championship. And like you said, A&M, if you put them in at number 4, right, they're going to be playing Alabama. Do you really want to see a 60-24 blowout again? I don't want to. I want to see USC play Alabama, high-powered offense versus another high-powered offense. I think that could be a high-scoring game.
It's very likely, and what we've seen in the past with Alabama when they face top teams, it's either 1 or 2 games. It's either a really low-scoring game and it's a slugfest, or it's a high-scoring game and it's like, something that you would see in Madden or in college football, the video game. So it's like those are the 2 possible scenarios, but at the same time, this year, Alabama can really, it's one of those games where you have to score on every possession that you get. And if you don't, you're going to lose this game. And that's what USC is going to be stacked up against them because Mac Jones has been phenomenal this year, going up and down the field. Literally, they have potential 3 Heisman candidates on that roster, and USC doesn't really have that besides, Keenan Slovis. But, no one's really talking about him in the Heisman race as much as like the other quarterbacks or anybody else in the league. So it's kind of hindering them, but at the same time, it's going to get really more interesting as time progresses as tomorrow unfolds. Isaiah, you got something?
They're not talking about him right now in terms of the Heisman because, first of all, USC started their season very late. They started their season first week of November. And secondly, there's just a lot of great quarterbacks right now in college football. You got Kyle Trask, you got Mac Jones, you've got Brock Purdy, who's lighting it up in Ames, Iowa. You've got Justin Fields. You've got Trevor Lawrence. There is just way too many great quarterbacks right now in college football. I don't expect Keaton Slovis to be in the Heisman right now, but I expect him to be in the Heisman next season once all those quarterbacks that are currently in the conversation for the Heisman move on to the NFL, and then you're going to be left with Keaton Slovis, probably Brock Purdy, and Sam Howell from North Carolina.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting thing that we could see potentially end up sprawling, like you said, the community made it clear that a group of 5 can't really get to the college football playoffs. But I remember listening on to like a sports radio show. What if you could expand the playoff brackets, but it's on its own separate level where it's the group of 5 conferences facing each other? I think people would tune into that, though they can't technically win a national title, but saying you're the best group of 5 out there and you can give them some New Year's 6 competition to get the schools in some like highlight potential, though you can argue to put, a 2-loss Auburn in once in a while to, jazz it up and give the group of 5, some competition, saying that if you're the best of the group of 5, the top 2 and the best of the group of 5 versus the, top 2 runner up in the Big Ten or the SEC, and they play each other, I think that's a fun game to watch, though it may not be your traditional, Pac-12 versus Big Ten in the Rose Bowl scenario, stuff like that. But if you give these group of 5 schools the opportunity to compete against these big schools and be able to win against these big schools, like good schools, then you're going to have recruiting maybe shift a little bit more towards their favor to get maybe a couple 4-star athletes to give them a chance to compete in the, traditional semifinal playoff picture. So these schools need the opportunity to, turn some heads in recruiting. If they can't face these big time schools, how they're ever going to get into that hump, into that conversation to be in that, college football playoff picture if they never get that spotlight? You're muted.
I'm sorry, man. I'm just like, I don't know. Every time I finish talking, I mute myself and I just forget I'm muted. But yeah, great point, Trevor. I agree with you. I think that, ultimately it's very hard for USC to make the playoffs because you're going to have people being like, let's say they go like, 5-0, they win or 6-0, they win the conference championship, they go undefeated. People are going to be like, they've only played 6 games. I mean, right now, that is literally the argument right now against Ohio State. People think that Ohio State shouldn't be in the playoffs because Ohio State only played, or they will only be playing 5 games this entire season. So, even though I think USC should be in the playoffs, but I could still see the argument against SC because they've only played 6 games, and then a lot of people are going to be like, oh yeah, but they played an easy schedule. They played they played Oregon, they played Utah, who's not the same, Arizona State, not really the same as before, Arizona, who's really garbage, as you guys can see from tonight's results, when they got absolutely blistered by Arizona State 70-7, and then they played I believe they play Stanford, they play UCLA, who right now UCLA has been given a bad rap. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But, I hope they do put USC in because I don't want to see A&M, even though I like Jimbo Fisher. I do not want to see another A&M Alabama rematch and have it to being like 60-20 and basically over after halftime.
Yeah. And like Casey King said, like expanding the college football playoff bracket to 16 teams, makes sense to do. But at the same time, you kind of lose that heat and intensity of every game matters. Because if you look at the NFL, most of those games don't matter. And you can go 8-8, get to the playoffs and win the whole thing. Versus college football, that one loss ends your hopes of a national championship. And that's what it always been. And if you look at the BCS, even though it was in a calculated system, having that one loss depends who you lost to. But if it was a bad loss, you were eliminated from the picture. It was easy said than done. But I think I like the intensity of college football where every game matters. And as soon as you start expanding that bracket, now you get the conversation of the 3-loss team. And it's like, well, is this 3-loss team really worth putting into the playoff picture? Are they just going to get blown out by the 1 seed? Like, you can argue with the top 10 because the top 10 has the ability to beat each other, and they most likely are playing each other in conference championship games, and those are more consistent, and those games are a lot closer. But as soon as you get to a 16-player team and seeing the people in the top 15 can get upset by people who are not even ranked, and it just shuts down everything. So it's really hard to just say, oh, we can allow the bottom, like, top 15 in to the playoff picture. It's just going to get messy. I'd rather keep it either to a 6, maybe to an 8-team picture, because those teams are the best in the country, and those games are going to be things that people tune into and are going to be very interesting than having a full 16-team bracket. And let's go on to our next topic in the NFL. We're going to recap the Patriots and Rams game. Isaiah, the Patriots fell flat in this game. After destroying my Chargers, they just get bushwhacked by the Rams, 24-3. And nothing was going for the Patriots. Cam Newton's passing, completion rate wasn't bad, but he only got barely over 100, passing yards. It wasn't his night. The team wasn't there, and the line for the Patriots just fell through, and they just got nailed after so many times. But at the same time, the Rams came out to play. They dominate from start to finish. And like you add for like our next question, are the Rams the best team in the NFC West? I'll lump this together. But what were your reactions of the Patriots game?
Well, Trevor, first of all, about the Patriots, I don't know who the Patriots are. I really don't, because 1 week they play like they're going to lose to a team filled with 6th graders. Then they come back the following, or the next week they play against, like, the next week they play like they could beat the Kansas City Chiefs at full strength with Patrick Mahomes. So I really don't know who this team is. It really befuddles me. I've been really confused about the Patriots all season long, and they're just really inconsistent. And I think it's time to move on from Cam Newton. I think you have to move on from Cam Newton after the season because he's just not getting it done. Cam Newton, again, did not reach at least 200 yards passing. He was very, very bad when it came to throwing the football and on offense. So he got benched into this game. In this game, he was 9 of 16 for 119 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Cam Newton's best days of football is behind him. The Patriots, they need to move on from Cam Newton because he's not the guy for their future. They need to maybe go with Jarrett Stidham for the final 3 games of the regular season, and see, what Jarrett Stidham can do for you. Maybe he could be your future. I don't know. But, Cam's not the future. They need to find their future quarterback. And until they find their future quarterback, the Patriots are not going to be doing anything for the foreseeable future. I know they have Bill Belichick, one of the best coaches in the NFL, but Belichick can only do so much without a good quarterback at the helm. So, and believe me, Tom Brady is not walking back through that door in Foxborough. He is cool in Tampa Bay. So you got to find your franchise quarterback if you want to go back to being what you once were. But I think that this game was more the Rams dominance on the offensive line. This offensive line, the reason why the Los Angeles Rams have won their last 2 games is because, Jared Goff, he's improved as a quarterback the last 2 games. But it's been the resurgence of this offensive line. This offensive line bullied the Arizona defensive line last week. They ran for 150-plus yards. And in this game, the Rams offensive line, they bullied the Patriots defensive line. They opened gaping holes for Cam Akers to run through. They gave Jared Goff a lot of time to throw the football. And the running game was just working so well for the Rams in this game, and that's primarily because of that offensive line. Cam Akers, as I mentioned, 29 carries, 171 yards. He was a beast out there. Jared Goff himself had 4 carries for 11 yards and a rushing touchdown. Darrell Henderson, 2 carries, 5 yards. I mean, the Rams, they just ran the football down the Patriots' throat. The offensive line, they pushed and bullied the Patriots' defensive line. And if the Rams' offensive line can continue to play the way they played for the last 2 games and open a lot of gaping holes in the running game and give Jared Goff a lot of time to throw the football, the Rams are going to be scary come postseason time.
Yeah. The Rams in general have, I think, they're a team that can do well in the postseason. But it comes back to the postseason. Anyone can get hot. Right now, the Giants have the potential to do it, but at the same time, we don't know what we're going to get from the NFC East this year. We could have a fluke and somehow they win a wild card weekend and make a deep run in the playoffs. And we're like saying, how is this possible? Why? Who let this happen? But it happens. And that's where I get my issues with the NFL with how they have their playoff system ranked, because you could be 6-10 somehow win your division, but you leave a team who's 10-6 out of this picture. So I digress in that. But a lot of people in our chats are talking about, do you think Cam Newton will be done as an NFL starter? Personally, I don't think so. But looking at how the league is going, there's just a lot of young quarterbacks in this league. So it's really tough on how I will want to say Cam Newton is, though he has put up not the flashiest numbers, and though he doesn't have the same weapons as he did in Carolina, the Patriots don't have the best wide receiving core in the NFL. The line is not great, but he's able to win games. He has won 6 games. Don't count him out in that. And though they could finish 8-8, and people saying that is a travesty, remember, he doesn't really have Julian Edelman. It's literally just Cam Newton by himself running up and down this field, and he's putting up fair, respectable numbers just doing it by himself. He's not slinging the ball like a pocket passer would. He's a mobile. He can move up and down the field. But at the same time, I think the reason why Bill Belichick signed Cam Newton was to experiment on the mobile quarterback. He never had a mobile quarterback in Tom Brady. So the best way to get that is sign Cam Newton for 1 year to understand the mobile quarterback gameplay. Then go and draft yourself a mobile quarterback, either, trade up for like Justin Fields or, get somebody who's not as a flashy name to give you media attention, because that's how Bill Belichick is. Get someone else who's mobile, and voila. He can fit in the system. You get him a nice line, give him some protection. They may not buy any flashy wide receivers, but buy good, consistent wide receivers. And boom, you may have a potential new and hybrid Tom Brady that we're saying, oh, he's now the new GOAT the next 5 years down the line. So it's going to be really interesting on what, the Patriots do in the NFL draft coming up.
Trevor, I want to answer Christie's question, and that was about Cam Newton. If he's done as a quarterback, I believe so. I think Cam Newton is done as a quarterback in the NFL because when you look at his stats, right, Cam Newton has never, ever, ever in his entire career in the NFL, he hasn't thrown the football for better than 68%. I mean, he has been not that good of a passer in his career. He's hovered like around 68, 60, 4% passing. You right now in the NFL, you need a guy that if they don't have like the Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray type athleticism, if they don't have that super athleticism and they can run around like crazy, you have to have a guy that can be a great pocket passer. And Cam Newton, he just hasn't been like that in his career. And now when you look at what teams are doing when Cam Newton plays, they're putting a spy in the middle of the field to spy on Cam Newton to make sure he doesn't get out of the pocket and run. So that is, limiting his run. And, without the run, Cam Newton is a bottom 20 quarterback in the NFL. He's just not that good because when you force him to pass, he just can't do it. He just can't pass the football. This year, if you look at Cam Newton's stats as a passer, he's completing 66% of his passes for 2,172 yards, very low in terms of passing yards in the NFL, 5 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He just cannot read the field correctly like a competent quarterback can. And sadly, I just think that, his injuries have just sapped him of that super athleticism that you need in the NFL if you're not a great pocket passer. So therefore, I'll say I think Cam Newton is done in the NFL as a starting quarterback.
I guess if teams are looking for Cam Newton as a potential like starting, because I kind of want to see him still be a starter, but it's just hard because like we don't see him sling the ball deep like as these quarterbacks currently do. But at the same time, like when Tom Brady got late into his career, he wasn't really slinging the ball down the field. Like he had the capability, but he had like a more of a deep mid-range pass play, which was very lethal in what he had. But at the same time, he worked with what he had and moved up and down the field and managed the clock extremely well. We could see Cam Newton transition into a game management quarterback and run the ball, have a good solid running back where he doesn't get beat up a lot, has a nice line, and be all right. Like I could see him, transition his way to the Colts if he want to do another 1-year contract and the Colts can't find anybody in the draft, get rid of Phillip Rivers. And now you have, Jonathan Taylor in the backfield with T.Y. Hilton as a wide receiver. That's great for Cam Newton. A nice something to build off of because the Patriots didn't really have that. He had Julian Edelman, but he ended up leaving halfway through the season. Their running back game, they had 3 different running backs that they kept rotating through, and they kept getting injured. So it's like I had to just rely on Cam to run it and do a quarterback draw almost like every other play, it felt like. And though he was doing like halfback screens, that's what he had. Like he didn't really have any wide receivers that he could trust to go throw that deep ball. So we haven't really seen him have that potential to sling that ball down deep. But if he had a wide receiver, like if we put him on Arizona where Kyle Murray is, could we see the same results where he can run it down deep and he has 2 great wide receivers? It could be a different story, but it's really hard to say where Cam Newton belongs with all these young quarterbacks in the league. But at the same time, there's teams that may be willing to purchase him and not get a young quarterback if they're trying to be a playoff contender now versus they're trying to rebuild. So it depends on what some of these teams are going to be strategizing for.
Yeah, Trevor, and I also want to answer the question about if the Rams are the best team in the NFC West right now. You know what? I got to say yes. I think the Rams right now are the best team in the NFC West. And I know you have the Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and co. But the reason why the Rams, in my opinion, is the best team in the NFC West is because I feel like they're just the more complete team. Right now, the Rams, they have one of the best defenses in the NFL with Aaron Donald, with Brockers, with Jalen Ramsey leading the charge. And then their offense, the last couple of games have just gotten better and better and better. And the offensive line, like I mentioned when I was first talking about the Rams and that their game against the Patriots, the Rams offensive line has reestablished their dominance at the line of scrimmage, which is really helping their run game. And if you remember, back when Sean McVay took over as the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, what was the Rams' bread and butter? their bread and butter was the running game. They always had a great running game, which would lead to like third and manageable for Jared Goff. Jared Goff would just then have to throw easy, like 5-6 yard passes, get the first down, move the chains, and that's how you keep going. So I got to say right now, I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC West because Seattle's got a great offense. But they can't stop anybody on defense. They just can't stop anybody. They gave up a lot of points to the Giants. They gave up points to the Eagles. They gave up points to Nick Mullins when he came in, like to play for Jimmy Garoppolo. I know it was garbage time, but still, you gave up like 3 touchdowns to Nick Mullins in garbage time. What the hell are you doing? So Seattle, until they fix the defense, the Rams right now are the best team in the NFC West because they're just the more complete team in that division.
I'm going to have to agree with you on this, Isaiah, that the Rams are the best team in the NFC West. And the reason is that if you look at the Seattle Seahawks, they have played so many close games and relying on Russell Wilson to get down this field to win this game for them. They can't rely on their defense. So it's just literally all on this man's shoulders to get up and down the field. And if you look at the Rams, their defensive line dominates. We saw it last night in the Patriots game where they just manhandled Cam Newton and they put him on the ground like 4 to 6 times. It felt like he was getting nailed, and their backup quarterback, my gosh, I felt bad for them. But at the same time, that defensive line is probably the best in that division, and it just keeps penetrating. It makes quarterbacks throw bad passes and getting sacked and making them uncomfortable in the pocket, forcing them to roll out, making bad passes, allowing your D-backs to get some turnovers, some picks in there, and just alter the game or force some 3 and out. So that's why I'm going to have to agree with you. Their defense is what's making, the Rams being dominant factor in this division. Maybe, who knows, we could see them bounce back and get to the Super Bowl and actually win the whole thing because the AFC is not looking that, fantastic. Like, Kansas City lost to the Raiders. The Raiders have been struggling. And then the Steelers lost to a team without a football.
You really lost to Denver, too.
Yeah, so it's like the team in the AFC West is primed for an upset in the Super Bowl at this rate. And I think a team from the NFC divisions has a chance to win the Super Bowl and do it big and in a big fashion. But I don't know what team is going to do it. Could it be Goff to redeem himself after his Super Bowl loss to the Patriots? Who knows? Or is it Aaron Rodgers sealing his deal for being a first ballot Hall of Famer with another Super Bowl win? Who really knows? It's so open in that division. You can't crown and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to put all my money on this team. You can't do that in this division. It's literally you got to put some here, put some there, and whoever gets hot in the playoffs is going to win that entire thing. So that's what I'm going to go with in that prediction.
I agree. The NFC is just wide open. I mean, New Orleans, they're a very good football team, but they lost Drew Brees. We don't know when he's going to come back. And when he does come back, is he even going to be the Drew Brees of old that we're so used to seeing and so used to lighting it up on the field? Are we going to see that Drew Brees? Are we going to see a compromised Drew Brees in the playoffs? We don't know. The Green Bay Packers, they have Aaron Rodgers, they got Devontae Adams, they got that great offense, but their defense is still a little bit suspect to me. I don't trust their defense come playoff time. The Rams we talked about, they are complete. Their offensive line has been dominant again. Goff's played better as of late. Running game is getting going. Defense is a beast. You know what? I'm going to take it a step further. Trevor, I honestly think right now, given all the question marks by the Saints, the Packers, the NFC East, we don't even have to talk about them because that's just how pathetic they are. I'm sorry about that. Giants, Washington football team. But I think the Rams right now are the best team in the entire NFC because every team besides the Rams just has questions. I mean, when you look at the Rams, their only question may be which Jared Goff every Sunday would come to play. Are we going to be seeing bad Jared Goff or are we going to be seeing good Jared Goff? So, I mean, but other than that, the Rams, I feel like, have more answers than the other teams.
And that's a perfect way to wrap up our NFL segment. Now let's move on to our Pigskin Pick'Ems. Isaiah, I know our Pigskin Pick'Ems are getting a little bit special because we're heading to some little bit rivalry territory based on how COVID's been impacting the season. But for our first matchup, we have number 17 North Carolina versus number 10 Miami, the U in this case. So Isaiah, who do you pick in this scenario?
Wow, this is a very, very interesting matchup. You have Miami, which has surprised a lot of people this year with their play on the football field. They are ranked number 10 in the country. They're 8-1. They've won games that, a lot of people didn't think they would win. Manny Diaz, their head coach, has done a great job. They have a great defense. Their offense has been better. North Carolina, Mac Brown, he's done a fabulous job since he's gotten back to Chapel Hill. But Trevor, give me the U. Give me those Miami Hurricanes to take down those Tar Heels tomorrow in Coral Gables, Florida. The reason why I'm picking the U, I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm picking the U because I don't trust that North Carolina defense. They've been giving up a lot of points as of late. They've got a great quarterback in Sam Howell, but Sam Howell can only do so much if your defense can't get stopped. So I'm going to go with Miami. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think that Miami will have control of it throughout the entire football game.
Isaiah, you see, I got my nice UNC hat here, and I thought about picking them earlier. I thought about it, but they're not doing it for me. I'm gonna go with the U on this one. I picked against the U later in the year, and they dismantled my team, and I felt bad about it. So I'm like saying I'm not picking against the U ever again. Their only loss, I believe, is to Clemson. And they've been doing it at this point in time. But at the same time, it's going to be a close game. Looking at how these teams have been playing, it's only won by like 3 points or a touchdown difference. It's nothing special. It's going to be a dogfight from start to finish. But I think Miami's defense is going to turn up, stop the Tar Heels, and the Tar Heels are not going to be able to get the job done. And that's why I'm going to go with Miami on this one. Some of our picks in, hoping, James Gonzalez, hoping that Mac Brown and the UNC Tar Heels can win it. We all hope, but I think Miami's just a better team. Shardell is picking North Carolina over Miami to win. Y'all going with some bold takes. Y'all preventing Miami to get a New Year's 6. That's what all y'all want. Kirsty Wilson is going with the U on this one. And Callan tuning in. Thank you, Callan. He's going to go with the U over the Tar Heels. So it's going to be really interesting. Casey King is going to go with the Canes to beat North Carolina. So there's a lot of even split in the fans tonight. So let's continue on with our Pigskin Pick'Ems. So we have the next one is Wisconsin versus Iowa. A classic showdown. Great rivalry between these two schools. I believe they fight over a pig, I believe. I don't know if I'm saying that right, or maybe I'm confusing the rivalry. But looking at this one, Wisconsin has only played 4 games this year. And I don't think Wisconsin wants a losing season. So I think they're going to be fired up, taking care of business in Iowa, and beating Iowa at Iowa. And I'm going to go Wisconsin and the Badgers on this one. So I'm going to go with Callan. Bring home the bacon.
Whew. This game is going to be another toss-up for me, Trevor. It's really, really difficult, because, you have Wisconsin. Wisconsin's looked good when they have played. You have Iowa. They've looked good as well. Iowa's ranked number 16. But, Trevor, give me the Hawkeyes. Give me those Iowa Hawkeyes to take down those Badgers in Iowa tomorrow. The reason why I'm going to pick the Hawkeyes is because I think this is going to be a defensive-oriented battle. 2 great defenses going at it. It's going to be a very low-scoring game. Give me Iowa winning this football game, and the score might make you walk off the set, Trevor. And Callan, if you're at home right now, you'll probably walk off the set as well. But give me Iowa winning this game. Give me 12-9, no touchdowns scored.
12-9. What? Why so low? Why so low, Isaiah?
It's because two great defenses going at it, two defenses that have been the best in the Big Ten. You know it's going to be a low-scoring game. I just don't see touchdown. Plus, it's going to be cold in Iowa. It's going to be freezing cold in Iowa as well. And when it's like cold weather plus two great defenses, it always ends up being like a field goal type of game. And no, Chardot, no way. No way is it going to be that score. I guarantee you that.
I'll show the score for our viewers so they can understand. Chardell is predicting the score will be 45-24. I have to agree with Isaiah on this one. There is no way Iowa's dropping 45 on Wisconsin. That is unheard of in that game. I can understand 24-17, but not 45-24. Isaiah, I think James Gonzalez said it best. Your score prediction is like 1940s football. I couldn't agree more on that one.
With my luck, Trevor, watch this game end up being like 42-40.
It's very possible, but some of our viewers, like James Gonzalez, is going to go with the Wisconsin Badgers. Casey King is also going to go with the Badgers on this one. Chardell is going to go with the Hawkeyes. Kirsty Wilson is going to go Wisconsin on this one. So, looking at our lovely fans, a lot of people are leaning towards the Badgers on this one. So, let's hope that the, Badgers can pull through. Next is our bonus game. I always love this game, the Army-Navy game. You can't leave it out. It's a classic rivalry. But, Isaiah, I wanted you to go to your pick for this game. Isaiah, you're muted, buddy.
First of all, before I go into this game, I gotta respond to Callan, who says, who beat Michigan 49-11 this season. Yes, you guys beat us this season. Great game. But it's because Michigan is having their worst year right now. And offensively, they suck. Defensively, me, Trevor, Callan, and everybody on this network could score touchdowns on this defense. That's just how atrocious they are. So we'll see next season. We'll definitely see next season when the Wolverines travel up to Wisconsin to play the Wisconsin Badgers. But you know what? This game, like I said, it's going to be a close game because Navy and Army, they always play close games against each other. They always like to run the football. If you guys don't like heavy run football, then don't tune in for this game because that's what it's going to be. There's going to be very, very few passes in this football game. But give me the Navy midshipmen with the upset. The Navy midshipmen last year, they got their butts handed to them, and they've been wanting revenge for the past year, and I believe that they are hungry. They're going to get revenge on Army for what they did to Navy last season. Give me the midshipmen to beat Army in a game filled with running plays after running plays after running plays.
Isaiah, I'm going to have to correct you on that. Last year, Navy won the game. So it snapped the Army's 3-game win streak. So it's going to be, is Navy going to be able to extend it to 2 wins, or is it going to go back to Army? But as you know, for me, I'm going to have to go with my pick. I'm going to go with Navy. I got my aircraft carrier here. It's going to be, the midshipmen come back to play. They're going to win this rivalry game. It's personal. The Navy is fantastic. They're great. And, though they don't have a fantastic record this year, but I think my midshipmen will be able to take up to the task, beat Army, and win and make the nation proud. This is the first time in a while that this game has been played at West Point. The last time it was played at West Point was in 1943. During World War II was the last time this game was up there. And you know what happened last time it was up there? The midshipmen won. So I think they're going to be able to continue to own Army and West Point in this game.
But by the way, since Callan is not here, I can do this. But Trevor, I gotta retract my prediction because what happened was, unfortunately, I had searched up on Google the Army Navy football game, and for some reason they gave me a game from like back in the I believe it was the 80s. I don't even know why. So that's why I thought that Army had flown out Navy. It was a stupid mistake. Blame Google for that, for giving me I search of Army versus Navy, and you're giving me a stat from the 80s. Are you serious, Google? But you know what? I just searched up Army and Navy for this season. Give me Army to win this game because Army's clearly the better football team. Army right now is 7-3, while Navy is 3-6. Navy's kind of been in a downfall recently. Ken Niumatalolo, who I love as a coach, he does a great job with that program, but they've been in a tailspin. Give me Army football to beat Navy in a close game.
Oh, you're going with the switcheroo. You're going to do my midshipman dirty like that.
I had to, Trevor. First of all, like Christy said, Google glitched on me. I mean, who gives people stats from the 80s when you're searching up something for this season? But like Max Kellerman always says on First Take, when the stats change or when the circumstances change, you're allowed to change your opinion, and that's what happened in this situation.
It seems that we have a special guest. Callan, can you hear us?
Isaiah? No.
Fantastic, Callan. But yes, let me read some of our lovely comments. Callan, before he left, had picked Go Navy, beat Army. Next to go with that, Casey King is going to say, like to see Navy pull it off, but I think Army's going to win in a shootout. You can't go wrong in this game in that sense. Sorry, Isaiah. Kirsty Wilson is going to pick Army, but Isaiah made the switch, so he's on your same side, Kirsty. Also, Chardell is going to go with Navy on this one. James Gonzalez's Trevor got all the props. Ha, ha, ha. That is very true. I am loaded in props. I love bringing props on the show, so can't wait for more shenanigans that I pull up on the show. I think that's just becoming my specialty. It's like my college game day where I bring out where Corso brings his headgear, I bring out my props. So I'm feeling like I'm doing one and the same here on that. So let's move on to our next pick, some NFL Pigskin Pick'ems. Now we have the Colts and Raiders. Isaiah, who do you got in this game?
Well, the Raiders, I haven't been impressed by the Raiders. The last couple of weeks, they had that they were really good against the Chiefs, right? And then they should have won that game, but they follow it back with losing or with getting whooped by the Falcons, and then they lose they should have lost to those New York Jets in the Meadowlands. So I don't know what's going on with the Raiders, but they got to get their act together. The Colts have been the same thing as well. They've been kind of inconsistent too. You know what? I'm going to go with the Raiders. I'm going to go with the Raiders in this game in kind of a shootout because the Raiders defense is not that good. So I think Phillip Rivers and that offense will be able to pick apart that defense. But on the other side, Derek Carr and that Raiders offense, Derek Carr has been one of the most underrated quarterbacks for the last couple of years. He's been he's been having a great year this season. I think Josh Jacobs, correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor, I think he's coming back in that game. That's really going to help the Raiders because Josh Jacobs is what makes that offense go. Give me the Raiders to win this game in a very close game. I'll take the Raiders. I'll say 34-31.
I'm gonna have to go against you on this one, Isaiah. I'm gonna have to go with the Indianapolis Colts with Old Man River. And I just think that, I think it's more of Phillip Rivers' last stand, and he's on this trajectory to make the playoffs, and he could end out, pulling off some magical upsets and getting a Super Bowl win. I would love that. Like, I respect the guy, and if he gets a Super Bowl and retires after that, by all means, I would love that to happen, but I really don't think he can get there. So it's going to be a tough game for them to win. But I have in my Pigskin Pick'ems on the app, I picked the Colts to win it, so that's where I'm going with. I'll read some of our fans. Chardell is going to go with the Colts over the Raiders in this game. If the Raiders win Sunday, then maybe they'll turn the corner. Maybe. James Gonzalez, you're perfectly right. The Raiders have been struggling this year at this point in time. They haven't been the same, I think, like after the Browns game. Kirsty Wilson is going to go with the Raiders, and Casey King is going to go with the Colts in a shootout. Now we'll move on to our last Pigskin Pick'ems of the night, ladies and gentlemen. It's a classic for the AFC North Division. The Ravens are at the Browns, a playoff division hunt for both of these teams, and it all boils down to this: for either the Browns secure it, or the Ravens will make it interesting if they win it. Isaiah, who do you have in this game?
Wow. This game is, I think, the best game on the slate. You have the Browns right now, I believe, in second place in the AFC North. The Ravens are right behind them at third in the AFC North. So they're kind of battling out for that second place in the AFC North, as well as, I believe, one of the final playoff spots in the AFC. But, Trevor, give me the Browns. Give me Kevin Stefanski. Give me Baker Mayfield. Give me Nick Chubb. Give me Kareem Hunt. Give me that great defense over the Ravens, because we've seen the last few weeks with Lamar Jackson, if you take away the run, Lamar Jackson is very mediocre as a passer. I know he had that great throw to Marquise Hollywood Brown last week against the Dallas Cowboys, but hey, this is not the Cowboys defense that you're going up against. Sorry, Christy, I'm not trying to take a shot at your Cowboys, but that's not the defense that you're playing. You're playing against a much, much better and much improved Cleveland Browns defense with Myles Garrett, with Olivier Vernon, Matt Wilson at linebacker. This defense is for real. Give me Baker Mayfield, who's coming off a 5-touchdown performance to beat Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in Cleveland on Sunday.
I couldn't agree with you more, Isaiah. The Cleveland Browns are going to take care of business on Monday Night Football, and I bet you, in the mind of Baker Mayfield, the last game they played against them, they got slaughtered. And I know a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, he likes to win, and he doesn't take losses too lightly. It's in his mind, and he has the opportunity to revenge that loss, secure the Browns with a double-digit winning season. I think since 2009, I want to say, was the last time the Browns were 10-6. So Baker Mayfield has definitely made leaps and bounds this year. And, it argues for his contract extension and all that stuff. But I think you worry about his contract extension after a playoff experience and what he ends up doing. But at the same time, he's on a great trajectory. And like I said earlier, when I did my my hot takes for the year, I said he was league MVP, and I have been keeping the same energy with Baker Mayfield. I think he's going to get it done here tonight on Monday Night Football. So hopefully he pulls it together. The Browns dominate the Ravens and just show them that they are a playoff caliber team and be a force to be reckoned with. But let me read some comments. But I think James Gonzalez helped me out here. It was 2007 the last time the Browns were 10-6. Thank you for clearing that up for me, James. But I think Kirsty Wilson is picking the Browns on this team. They're hot right now. I completely agree with you. James Gonzalez is going to pick the Browns and show that they are a real team. Couldn't agree more. Casey King is a battle of old and new. Cleveland and going with the Browns in this one. Shardell is going to go with the Cleveland Browns on this one to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And I think the slogan that James says, not let up, it should be a slogan if you're the Cleveland Browns, if you're the hot Cleveland Browns. I couldn't agree more on that. At this point, they're rolling, and this is the point where the Browns make that turn, win that wild card game, keep that momentum going, though they may not have a great divisional round. But I think it's just winning that playoff game is what the Browns fans are looking for. I think even getting the playoffs will get them excited, but winning that wild card game will boost up the excitement for sure. But now let us transition to our Power 5.
Персональный спутник.
Isaiah, I'll let you get going on your Power 5 list.
Well, Trevor, actually, guys, today the Power 5, the segment that you guys all came for. We're doing Christmas themed for the entire month of December, but for today's Power 5, ladies and gentlemen, we are doing Power 5 Christmas treats. And this was, Trevor, this was a very hard list to come up with because let's face it, there's a lot of Christmas treats, plus you have eggnog and stuff like that are kind of considered treats, but they're kind of considered drinks as well. So, you have to separate the two. So this was a very hard list to come up with. But Trevor, number 1 for me, or forget number 1 actually. Number 5, I'll start from number 5 all the way down to number 1. Number 5 on this list for me has got to be the candy cane. Because every Christmas, what do you see on the Christmas trees? What do people pass out? What is the one constant thing that you eat on Christmas? The candy cane. So I got to put the candy cane at number 5. Number 4 on my list has got to be do we have the picture of it, Trevor? The
I wasn't able to pull it up. My computer's acting slow on one side, but as our viewers, I'll show it on my phone as best as
show them a
my
little bit
ability.
Yep, see?
There we go.
Peppermint brownies. I don't know if you guys have ever had it or not, but the peppermint brownies basically look like that. It is very, very good. It is brownies, plus you put a little bit of cream cheese, or not even cream cheese, just like whipped cream on top, plus you sprinkle in some peppermints. It is just so good. I really love it. One of my neighbors makes this every single year. It's very, very good. Here's a better picture of it, actually. The peppermint brownies right there. It's so good, man. And it's sweet, but also it is very refreshing in your mouth, especially when the peppermint hits. So that's my number 4. I would say number 3 on my list has got to be the chocolate chip cookies. Every Christmas you got to have the chocolate chip cookies, especially when they come out of the oven. It's warm, it's crispy, it's so good, man. It's just really, really good. Plus, you got to have it for Santa, right, Trevor? You got to put a plate of chocolate chip cookies out, put a glass of milk out. Santa comes in the middle of the night to deliver presents, so you got to have that. Number 2 on my list has got to be the apple pie. And my God, there is I think Nations Hamburgers makes one of the best apple pies I've ever tried. It is they put I don't remember what you call it, but they put some crumbles on the apple pie. It's very, very good. I like that apple pie better than the regular apple pie because it's just more crunchier. And number 1 on my list, number 1 has got to be the gingerbread cookies. The gingerbread cookies, Trevor, right? Look at this. Every Christmas, back when I was a kid, we would make gingerbread houses. There would be gingerbread mans. You could decorate the gingerbread man. It's just a fun activity to do, and it's also fun to eat as well. It's really delicious. And Christy also brings up one that was on my honorable mention. Definitely, the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup shaped like a Christmas tree. You got to have that every single Christmas. Callan, Trevor, you could put up his comment. I was going to put pumpkin pie on my list. That's why I was, privately messaging you to come on the show. I was going to do it, but I was like, pumpkin pie is not really Christmas. It's more of a Thanksgiving thing. You could eat it for Christmas, but I just feel like it's more of a Thanksgiving thing. So that's my Power 5.
Very, very good Power 5, Isaiah. And for me, I guess I can read some of our viewers' Power 5s real quick. I know Shardell had peppermint bark. Never heard of that one, but I think I wonder if it's a drink or not. If you could let us know in the comments, I'll definitely, confirm it for the viewers. Number 4 is Christmas cookies. Can't go wrong with that. Number 3, spiked hot chocolate. Ooh, interesting. Number 2 for him is candy canes. And number 1, gingerbread houses for Kirsty Wilson. Her number 5 is candy canes. Number 4 is sugar cookies shaped like a tree. Good, gotta have that in there. Number 3 is peanut butter brittle. I was say peanut brittle. Oh man, that's when you know it's getting late for me. Number 2 is gingerbread cookies. Number 1 for her is Reese's peanut butter cups shaped like a Christmas tree. And her honorable mention is gingerbread snaps. Ooh, good picks. Oh, Isaiah, see, you have to make a correction.
Yes. So I was struggling earlier to try to define, the type of apple pie that I like, but I've actually found it here on my computer. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. It's this kind of pie. It's the Dutch apple pie. You guys see the crust over there. It's kind of made out of cookie crumbles right there. And then you have the apple filling down below. So that's kind of the apple pie that I like. I really like. Here's another picture of it. It's much better picture. You have like the crumble, the apple filling down to the bottom. I love a great Dutch apple pie. Plus, you put some vanilla. You put a scoop of vanilla ice cream on it, Trevor. It's just so perfect.
Yep. And I'll introduce and Kirsty Wilson says she loves Dutch apple pie. So I'll introduce my Power 5, starting with 5. I have to agree with Isaiah that brownies are fantastic to add on this list. That's why I put brownies as a number 5 on the list. Christmas brownies can be very decorative. You can shape them as a Christmas tree. You can shape them as a snowflake. But just that traditional square and having some red and green sprinkles on it definitely, fills that holiday spirit. Number 4, I'm going to have to go with the Rice Krispie treat. You can make them festive as well. You can shape them into literally anything. And the beauty of Rice Krispie treats, they're always great during the holiday season. So I love the stickiness in them. And you can serve them at holiday parties. And I just love that because of that. Number 3 is the candy cane. I have it up there because I enjoy candy canes, but I love the mini candy canes better than the actual bigger candy canes. The bigger candy canes, your hands just get sticky after a while and it just becomes gross. But the mini ones, like, you pop it in your mouth, your hands don't get sticky, and you just move on with your day, though they become sharp and pointy. Isaiah, so you have a comment with my number 3.
Plus, don't forget, Trevor, it's also perfect to pass out to like friends and families and stuff, because you buy that like with the regular candy canes, you buy a box and it's like there's only like 12 of them, right? But if you buy a box of mini candy canes, there's like a box of 36, and it's more. You can pass it out to more friends.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. My number 2 will kind of surprise people. but I gotta love these frosted, cookies. I love them. Like I always get them during the holiday season, even when they're not there. They're always perfect for any type of holiday. You see them for 4th of July, Valentine's Day, Halloween, Easter, you name it. These cookies are in every single holiday that you can think of, and that's why I put them on number 2. It doesn't matter when. I understand they're related towards Christmas, but you see these cookies around Christmas time, and I think these cookies are fantastic. And if you have a nice glass of milk, perfect. My number 1, the one that is always near and dear to my heart, is the Pillsbury Doughboy cookies that you make and you put your sprinkles on them. Those sugar cookies will always be my favorite. I love putting them in the oven, making around Christmas Eve, around 10 o'clock at night. I don't know why I always do it at 10 o'clock at night, right before midnight. And I get these cookies out of the oven, and when they're done and they cooled off, I always get a nice glass of milk. I dip it in, drink it, and boom, it's perfect. These cookies are fantastic, and you can't go wrong with the Pillsbury, Doughboy cookies in that sense. But that will conclude it for our Power 5. Let me read the last comments. For Chardot, he'll take the last one before we go into our final thoughts. He will have to go with the sugar cookies shaped like Christmas trees, and he loves decorating them on Christmas like red and green. I can't agree more on that, Chardot, but let us transition to our final thoughts. And for our final thoughts, Isaiah, I'll let you take away in our final thoughts.
Yeah, Trevor, before I get into my final thoughts, I want to take a moment to thank our viewers for tuning in tonight. I want to thank Chardot. I want to thank Christy. I want to thank Callan, who, even though he was on assignment today, took a minute to tune into our show. Really appreciate you, Callan. Can't wait to have you back on the night shift tomorrow. We'll see if I come on the night shift. My availability for the night shift is always TBD. And, if I can't come on the night shift, Trevor, who knows, will take over for me. Thank you, Trevor. Really appreciate you.
Not so fast. I sleep during the time you guys do. It's like 3 a.m. by the time y'all show starts. So it's like y'all get me in like my bed attire. I had to come on the show.
You might have to drink an extra cup of coffee. You might have to drink an extra cup of Red Bull to come on tomorrow. Because if Georgia loses tomorrow, I swear I ain't coming on. But I want to thank Christy. I want to thank Chardot. I want to thank Callan. I want to thank Casey King, as well as James Gonzalez. Who else? We had a lot of great comments tonight, as well as questions. I also want to thank Stephen Wang, Firmin Lee, John Alcorn, for tuning in as well. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in, and always for giving us great love and support here on the network. But Trevor, for my final thoughts, I want to get into the Arizona State-Arizona game. Kevin Sumlin, this should have been his last game, or this should be his last game that he coaches down in the desert. Arizona lost this football game. They lost to their in-state rival. They lost this football game 70-7. They lost by 63 points at home to their in-state rivals. I mean, that's just an embarrassment right there. It was 42-7 at halftime. It was 63-7 at the end of the third quarter. Arizona State could have ran the score up even more. It could have been 84-7 by the end of tonight, but Arizona State decided to sit their starters out after halftime, so it wasn't like that lopsided of a score, but still 70-7, not acceptable. Kevin Sumlin, since he's taken over at Arizona, they've been going backwards in his entire tenure there. The Kevin Sumlin era should end tonight in Arizona. As far as I'm concerned, he should be getting the boot right now in Arizona, especially after that disaster of a game that they played at home, losing by over 63 to their in-state rivals. Kevin Sumlin is finished in the desert.
And that's a great way to end your hot takes for tonight, Isaiah. I want to make an announcement update that Jonathan Mathis's take will advance on to the next round, and his percentage on winning was 57-43, a very close one in this one. But I don't know if the seeding was an upset or not. Let me go back and check. Was it an upset? I don't know. We're going back to the bracket, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, it was another upset. I believe a 26 upsets a 7, if I can read my screen correctly. Yes, it is. A 26 upsets a number 7. What a fantastic night on, the hot takes bracket. Love the upsets. Keep them coming, ladies and gentlemen. Isaiah, I see that you have a comment. You're muted, my buddy.
I know my guy Callan McClurg right now is watching our show via YouTube, and I just have to say something to you, Callan. Callan, remember how I was all gloom and doom about the Niners' playoff chances after they lost to Buffalo? I was like, yeah, season's over, blah, blah, blah. Well, Callan, put that flag up again, man. The season is back on. The playoff chase is back on. I still believe, especially after talking to Grant Code, that the Niners will still go to the playoffs. They will beat Washington. They will beat the Cowboys. And I will take my chances with Arizona and Seattle in the final 2 weeks of the season. But I'm here to announce, ladies and gentlemen, the season is back on. The white flag, hang that in the closet for another day.
All right, Isaiah, in a week or two, you're going to bring that white flag back up. So I don't know if you should be saying that. But for me, I will say with my final thoughts, I think I forgot when I was talking about the Army-Navy game. Every year, they have fantastic uniforms. And this year, they do not fail to impress me this year. I love the nice Army green that Army is rolling out with in this game. But the Navy never fails to impress me with their naval traditions. And this year, that looks, fantastic. I know I don't want to curse on the show, but you know how I would want to describe it. But that is some fantastic uniforms by our nation's finest. But for me,
that Navy uniform, amazing.
It's beautiful. You can't go wrong with it. And for my final recap, it was a fantastic show. I didn't know this show would go 2 hours long, but we had a great discussion with our viewers today. And I think that's what, drove us to continue doing the show. I thought I told Isaiah before we hopped on the show today, it was going to be a short show. We were going to finish in an hour. We were going to blitz through things. But our viewers came in. They made things active for us. And we dragged this show out for 2 hours long. So I think this is one of our longest shows that me and Isaiah did together by ourselves. So kudos to us on this one. But I think, as Callan says, is best, death, taxes, and a 2-hour shows on the MI6 Sports Network. Boom. That basically sums us up in a nutshell.
Hey, Trevor, since Callan's not here, you want to bring up more topics and go 1 more hour? You want to go 3 hours?
Isaiah. It's already, 12:16 a.m. I'm already in Saturday. I got to prepare for my Army-Navy game, kickoff at 3 Eastern time. So, I got to get my sleep for my game tomorrow and make sure I wear my captain's hat and watch my midshipmen win this game. I could do some updates and be like, oh, no, and be like they scored, Army scored, or stuff like that. So I could get maybe some of my gifs of my own so I could run the hot take table in 2021 in the future. But who knows? I'll have to wait and see. But that will do it. I guess before I close this out, let me just do some quick reminders that we still have our lovely schedules. So to bring us home, so Saturday, tomorrow we have our night shift, Saturdays and Sundays at 10 p.m. Pacific time. On Mondays, we have our Wild Sports Talk. Tuesday, we have the night shift again at 10 p.m. Wednesday, back again with our fantastic Wild Sports Talk at 7:30 Pacific time. Thursday, sometimes we have our night shift or Midnight Express. Fan response happens. or Ryan opens up some of his cards. So tune in for Thursdays for those. And Friday is back here at it again with Friday with no BS at 6:30 Pacific time or 10 or 7 p.m. depending what's going on. And I want to see if I want to read my last final comments. Oh, and Callan, just don't break any bones, Trevor, unlike the guy in the square corner next to you. Callan, I don't think I'm that active as Isaiah in that one.
No pineapple video.
No pineapple. Did you say pineapple video?
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah.
Dear Lord.
But ladies and gentlemen, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ah!
Isaiah, I don't know what made you do that, but I think that would sum it up here tonight on the MI6 Sports Network. And Callan, to cap us off with yes, and yes. That will do it for us.
Yes!
And I
You like that? You like that?
And I know our viewers like that for sure. But that will do it for here on us on the Wild Sports, not the Wild Sports Talk. See, it's already late for me. I have my own bloopers for the midnight, for the night shift already. This is going to be great. Well, this will do it for No BS tonight, ladies and gentlemen. A 2-hour and 5-minute special coming at you on this glorious Friday. Till next time, everybody on the MI6, stay safe this holiday season and see ya all on the night shift.
Yeah. 3-6 Mafia.
Yeah. Whoa. Hey. Yeah. Whoa. Say what? Whoa. 3-6 Mafia. It's going down. Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you.